Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On this question, I will a little explain about contextual teaching and learning. Contextual teaching and learning is an educational process that aims to help students see, and students see meaning in the academic material they learn by connection academic subject with the context in their daily life. And then CTL learning or contextual teaching learning objective. This CTL learning model aims to motivate students to understand the meaning on the subject matter they are learning. And then this learning model aims so that learning is not just memorize but requires understanding. And then this learning model emphasizes the development of student experience interest. The CTL learning model aims to train students to be able to think critically and be skilled. And then this learning model aims to make learning more productive and meaningful. This CTL learning model aims to invite children to an activity that links academic material with the context of everyday life. And then the learning and the last, the learning objective of the CTL model aimed that individual students can find and transfer complex information and students can make the information their own. And then I will explain about the CTL components. And number one is constructivism. On this basis, learning must be packaged into a process of constructing and receiving, and not receiving knowledge. In the learning process, students build their own knowledge through active involvement during the learning process, so that students become the center of activities. And number two, inquiry, find yourself. Inquiry is the most important part of learning that use a contextual approach. The knowledge and skill that students acquire are by self-discovery. Therefore, the learning process decided by the teacher must be in the form of activity that refer to finding activities. The learning steps begin with the formulating problems, observation, analyzing, and communicating. And number three is questioning and asking. Questioning is the main strategy in a contextual approach. Asking question and learning is seen as a teacher activity in encourage, guide, and assess student thinking abilities. And number four, learning community. This activity will occur when there is no dominant party in the communication. Neither party feels reluctant to ask question, and neither party think they know the best. And then modeling. The purpose of the modeling is that learning is carried out by displaying a model that can be sculpted, felt, and can even be imitated by students. In practice, the teacher is not the only model, because the model pretend will be the competence standard to be achieved. If the teacher is not able to become a model, don't force yourself. Teacher can bring in models from outside. The model can be from students who are considered capable or expert into the class. And number six, reflection. Reflection is a way thinking about what we have done in the past. Reflection is a response to event, activities, or newly received knowledge. The purpose of this reflection is activities to see the extent to which previously built knowledge can settle in the mind of student. Therefore, this reflection activity must always be carried out before the teacher ends the learning process for each meeting. And number seven, or the last, authentic assessment. Assessment in the process of collecting various data can provide an overview of the student learning development. This activity needs to be done by the teacher to find out and ensure that students have experienced the learning process correctly. And in prom, the result of this assessment is known that students have experienced difficult in mastering competence, and then the teacher must immediately take a appropriate action so that student can master the predetermined competencies. And then we have application of the CTL learning. Broadly speaking, the steps are as follows. And number one, and the first, develop the idea that children will learn more meaningful by working along the contact their own new knowledge and skill. And number two, carry out inquiries as far as possible on all topic. And number three, develop student curiosity by asking questions. And number four, create a learning society, learning in groups. Number five, present the models and example of the learning. And then reflect at the end of the meeting. And then we have a step learner. To achieve the same competence using CTL, the teacher perform the learning step as below. And number one is introduction. The teacher explains the competencies that must be achieved as well as the benefit of the learning process and the importance of the learning material be studied. The teacher explains of the CTL learning procedure, and then the students are divided into group according to the number of the student. And then each group is assigned to observe. For example, group 1 and 2 made observation in the library, and group 3 and group 5 made observation in the computer laboratory. And then through observation, students are assigned to record various electrical and computer devices found in the room. And the teacher conducts question and answer about the tasks that must be done by each student. And number two, we have the main idea, main point in the field. The student makes spatial observation according the division of the group assignment. And then student record the things they find in the room according to the observation tool they have previously determined. And then in the classroom, students discuss their finding according to their respective groups. And then students report the result of the discussion. And the last, each group answer any question asked by the other groups. And the last, closing with the help of the teacher. Students conclude the result of the observation about the problem. For example, the introduction of the electrical equipment and computers in accordance with the indicators of learning outcomes that must be achieved. And then the teacher assigns students to make pictures and describe their observation with them. For example, is electrical equipment and computers. And then the advantage of CTL or contextual teaching and learning. Number one is learning becomes more meaningful and real. And number two, learning is more productive and able to foster concept reinforcement in student. And then contextual is learning models that emphasize full student activity, both physically and mentally. And then And then classroom in contextual learning is not a place to obtain information, but as a place to test that on their finding in the field. And then subject matter can be found by student themselves, not be result of giving from the teacher. The application of contextual learning can create a meaningful learning atmosphere. And then this advantage of CTL or contextual teaching learning. Number one is it takes quite a long time when the contextual teaching learning process takes place. And then if the teacher cannot control the class, it can create a classroom situation that is less conducive. And then teachers are more intensive in guiding. Teacher need extra attention and guidance to students so that learning objectives are in accordance with was originally applied. Yeah, I think that's all, Miss. Yeah, that's all, Miss. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.